Welcome once again to the Legal Unicorns podcast, and thank you very much for joining us. I am your host, Rob Green, and I am delighted to welcome to Cape Town and to the studio here today, Advocate Kerusha Pillay. Thank you very much for joining us.
Good morning, Rob. It is an absolute pleasure to be with you this morning. Thank you for having me.
Brilliant. Excellent. Well, look, you are down here in Cape Town. I know that you live in Johannesburg, and I've wanted to interview you for quite a while because you're a fascinating person, fascinating legal professional, but you've got so many other avenues that you're working in, and I know that our listeners are going to be interested in your journey and the things that you're involved in, and I'm really looking forward to getting to chat about all of them in detail. But just to give the listeners a little bit of a background to you and introduce you properly, you are Advocate Kerusha Pillay. You are at the Duma Nokwe group of advocates in Sandton in Johannesburg, and you've been practicing since 2008, is it?
I started pupillage in 2008, and I started practice on the 1st of January 2009.
And that was about the same time that I moved to Hong Kong, right in the middle of the financial crisis. So we both had an interesting start to our careers. And you specialise in mining law, corporate law, constitutional and administrative law. You are also, and I want to explore this greatly, you're also involved in a number of green power producing companies, right? You've gone into that avenue, and that's something that I'm absolutely fascinated about, and I really want to delve into that. In addition to that, you're also the editor-in-chief of Affinity magazine, which I think is actually how we first came to each other. And I know that you're doing, that magazine focuses a lot on diversity, equity and inclusivity in the corporate sector, which is, as the listeners will know, and anyone who follows me on the socials will know that that's an area that I've been involved in for almost 2 decades now, so I'm very, very keen to hear more about that. We might get past the hour here, and also you volunteer a lot of your time as well, and your strategic expertise to 3 organisations, which I'd like you to talk about later on, that promote economic empowerment of women in business as well across South Africa, which is in all areas and aspects of your life. You are giving back to the wider community, and I'm so delighted to have you here. So thank you once again. But before we get into all of that, obviously the purpose of the Legal Unicorns podcast is to find out more about the individual behind all of that, and find out more about you and how you grew up and where you grew up. So if I may ask you to take us on your journey from from how far back you can remember, and I believe that you are originally from Pietermaritzburg, is that right?
That's correct. So thank you, Rob. So I'm originally from the beautiful administrative capital of KwaZulu-Natal, called Pietermaritzburg. Many people don't know the place, but it is in the KwaZulu-Natal Midlands. There's a beautiful countryside. It's similar to the English countryside that we spoke about, the Lake District just now. And I had the privilege of growing up there. I come from a family of lawyers, and when I was 6 years old, my dad's sister, his only sister, would take me to work with her. I would go and stay with her in the school holidays. She was a prosecutor at the time, and I would stay with her, so I started very early in the legal profession. I think that experience for me taught me that as a woman, I never doubted that I could be a lawyer when I grew up. It was something, I think, now in hindsight, that was very important because of the patriarchal society that we find ourselves in, particularly in the legal profession. Having said that, I think it was a lot of fun. Her husband was an attorney next door, so we would go there in the lunchtime.
Wow, really were surrounded by lawyers.
My dad is also an attorney. His law firm was established in Pietermaritzburg. Since my brother has joined him and his wife, they have expanded their practice. They now have a practice in Umhlanga in KwaZulu-Natal and an office in Johannesburg.
Wow.
It gets more exciting than that, let me tell you. So my dad had a couple of friends. All of them were lawyers, either judges, advocates, or attorneys. All of them had sons. and all of them became attorneys or advocates. So
Wow.
it was quite an experience. There's one of them who had twins, and one of them is a lawyer. She came very much after me, though. So my upbringing was primarily surrounded by males who were lawyers. The benefit of that was that when I grew up, I never had to really adjust to a male-dominated legal profession, which we find ourselves in. The second aspect of that is that my dad, I'm the eldest of 3 kids.
Okay.
And I'm the only daughter.
Okay, so it's you, then 2 younger brothers.
That's correct. Yeah. And anybody that knows me knows that I am a real daddy's girl.
Nice.
I would tag along with him wherever he went to. I spent a lot of time in his office, and he raised me acknowledging very much that I am his only daughter, but also no differently from my brothers. So again, when I entered the legal profession, I was very accustomed to be surrounded by mostly males. I never looked at myself differently in terms of my self-identity. I never doubted that there was anything that I could do, because both of my parents actually always encouraged me to pursue whatever it is that I wanted to do. And when I reflect on that now, I can very happily say that Malcolm Gladwell has written a book called Outliers, and he says you should do 10,000 hours of mastering whatever it is that you like, so that you are better placed to succeed later on in life. When I was 6 years old, as I said to you, I started immersing myself in the legal profession. And funnily enough, the high school that I went to was called Carter High. And it was named after Judge Carter, who obviously I've never met. But I suppose that was a further indirect influence on me as a lawyer. And I also naturally took to a lot of activities, extracurricular activities, such as debating and public speaking whilst I was at school. And that held me in very good stead later on when I decided to become a lawyer. The other very interesting field, which I did my 10,000 hours in, and I started that when I was 5 years old, was in the media and communication space. And as you've mentioned, there's quite a lot that I am doing at the moment. But when I got to university, I was at a quandary as to what to do. So I decided, let me do a Bachelor of Arts degree with media subjects and law subjects. And then I said, let me decide what I would prefer to do. And I thoroughly enjoyed the media and communication, and I completed my Bachelor of Arts with my majors in media and communication and English. And then my dad said to me, well, you have 2 more years to finish your LLB, why don't you go ahead and do that? And so that's what I did. And then it came the time to decide what next. And so I decided, let me become an advocate, and that's what I did for 15 years. Earlier this year, I said to myself, now why do I need to choose between the two? So I'm very passionate about diversity, equity, and inclusion, which is something you alluded to earlier. And I then became the editor-in-chief of a new magazine. So I'm one of the founding members, called Affinity. It focuses on diversity, equity, and inclusion in the corporate sector. We have done some wonderful articles and wonderful interviews so far. On the cover of the last magazine is Professor Bonang Francis Mohale, who has become a very good friend of mine and a mentor, and I've learned quite a lot from him. I think he's also showed me that you can do very much, because he is the Chancellor of a university, the chairperson of 2 listed companies, the president of Business Unity South Africa, and a professor of practice of a business school. So when many people ask me, why do you do so much of things? My response is, well, other people can do it, so why can't I?
Yes, yeah. Other people are doing a lot more, yes, as well.
Precisely, yeah. That is correct.
Yes, thanks for the description of where Pietermaritzburg is as well, because obviously we have listeners from all over the world, and they'll often get a map out and go, where is it? But I personally know where it is, and I know it's a very beautiful part of the country. And you've obviously had a huge influence within the law, like you said, from the age of 5 or 6. Almost, I say a bit tongue in cheek, but there's almost you didn't in some way it was almost written in the stars. I mean, obviously you had a lot of choice.
I was born to be a lawyer. As
You
I
were
say.
born to it, yeah. And as someone who married into a family of lawyers, I can see where it starts to feed through, doesn't it? Which is wonderful. But also, it's so nice to hear the way that you describe the support you got from your extended family, as well as from your father, which I assume you still get today. And when you said, you know, you were a daddy's girl and that your dad supported you and obviously encouraged you to do as much as you can, as a father of a daughter myself, it's always nice to hear, you know. And I suppose that's what we try to do, isn't it? You know, try to protect and direct, but at the same time let them grow themselves. I'm so admiring of all of the things that you are doing, and I'd really want to dive into you know, a little bit more about you and about that little bit, the start of the journey. Which I don't have it in front of me, but which university did you go to?
So I went to the University of KwaZulu-Natal, the Pietermaritzburg campus. Yep. It was at the time reputed to be the best law school in the country. So I'm very proud to say that I studied at that law school. There are many eminent authors of legal texts that we have that were lecturers. So for example, many would know Professor Robert Sharrock, who wrote Business Transactions Law and the Law of Contract. And there is Professor Dennis McQuaid Mason, who I had the pleasure of meeting again at the Africa Legal Awards a few weeks ago. I think there is also Professor Shannon Hochter that I can remember, who was the criminal law lecturer, or one of them. I think he wrote a criminal law text. There was also, I'm trying to recall the name now. It escapes me, but I think the point is made. That
but they were part of your alumni. Yeah.
I think it's Birchall and Hunt also. I beg your pardon, Birchall and Hunt, who wrote the criminal procedure text.
And they're all from that university. And
that is correct.
Yeah,
that
fantastic.
Is correct. I think there was also Mike Cowling, who was one of the lecturers as well. Yes.
Yes. So again, you had hugely great influences outside of school and inside of the learning facility. And then when you graduated, were you ever admitted as an attorney, or did you go straight to the bar?
No, I unfortunately don't have a very fancy story to tell about my career as a lawyer. I went straight to the bar. In hindsight, I think the best way to say is that I was extremely brave at the time. And it's been a phenomenal journey. When I look at my career, I think what stands out for me is in about 2015, I made the very brave decision again to relocate my practice substantially to Johannesburg. And it's a beautiful story to tell, so I'm going to tell it.
Yeah, please do.
I'm part of an organization called Advocates for Transformation. And so that focuses, as the name says, on transforming the legal sector. There was a senior counsel that I bumped into at court the one day and struck up a friendship with him. And he was somebody who I would call a sponsor because he involved me in the organization. He gave me a position in the leadership of his provincial structure. He trusted me by sending me for a lot of meetings to Johannesburg, which gave me exposure to a lot of the key senior counsel in the profession. It then again made me comfortable to then say that I want to relocate to Johannesburg. I then met somebody who is now late and who has left, I think, an indelible impact on my life and the life of many others. His name is Mandla Zulu, and I met him at one of the conferences, and I said to him, I would really like to try and practice in Johannesburg. And he said to me, yes, you are most welcome, my girl. You can come and use my chambers, which I eventually took him up on the offer on. Again, he became my family in Johannesburg. I would go to his house very often. His kids were like my kids. It really was very welcoming. And he assisted me by granting me access to a lot of work involving me in his matters. And I think that for me is something which stands out. The reason why I mention him, apart from that, is that he taught me one of the most important lessons in life, which has shaped me and a lot of what I do. And that is to help other people.
Yeah.
I think because I look at the impact of the kindness that he showed to me, to the lengths that he went to help me, and I've realized that it is important for me to give back to other people in whatever way that may be. The second thing is the Duma Nokwe group of advocates is undoubtedly the group which has the most illustrious history in the history of the legal profession.
Wow.
I see you are
that's a big statement.
I see you are raising your eyebrows, but when I finish what I say,
Yeah.
can only but agree with me.
Yeah.
So Duma Nokwe was the Secretary General of the African National Congress in 1958 until 1969 or thereabout.
Okay.
He was a freedom fighter in the true sense of the word. He contributed immensely to the liberation struggle and to the eradication of apartheid in South Africa. As a lawyer, he would often find himself at the United Nations addressing them about why South Africa should be economically sanctioned and about why apartheid should be ended and why the international community should support us. Okay? He was also the first black advocate in the history of the legal profession. Now, many people would know that when you apply to be admitted, you have to apply for permission from the court to be admitted.
Yeah.
So when he applied, he had to apply for permission, and in his case, he had to apply to the Minister of the Interior Affairs, I think it was at the time, because he was an African person, a black person. At the bar, there were many objections, which is recorded in a book called 100 Years at the Bar. And some of the objections were the following. How can he be in the same building as white people? And obviously there was the Group Areas Act, so that was something which we cringe at now, but which something was legal at the time. And the other consideration is, how can he be in the common room and drink tea from the same cutlery and crockery as white people? And the third was, how could he use the library facilities? Because he would have to be in the same building again. So George Bezos, who is famous not only because of his involvement in the Rivonia trial, he is famous because he defied the law at the time and said to Duma Nokwe, you will come and share my chambers with me so that you can be in this building. And Walter Sisulu said to him, do not sacrifice being a lawyer for the price of a cup of tea. And so that started the admission and entry of black legal practitioners into the legal profession in this country. A few weeks ago, we celebrated our 20th anniversary. I had the privilege of being the MC for the event, and it really gave me the greatest sense of pride to be reminded of the reason why our group was formed, of the legacy that we carry in terms of our transformation credentials, if I could put it in that manner, and of the work that we still need to do, because our group is always at the forefront of transformation in the profession. So now I think you will but agree with me when I say we have the most illustrious history.
You are, I'm not going to...
It doesn't stop there. The culture of our group is second to none. When I started practice, I came into a group where not many people knew me. There were probably about 3 or 4 of the senior council. And the culture of our group is really what assisted me to remain in practice, because I had the support of the senior advocates. Many of them gave me work. There is Mandla Zulu, who I mentioned. There is Aslam Bava SC, who I've done a lot of regulatory and compliance medical schemes work with recently. There is also Advocate Dali Mpofu SC, which many people know.
Familiar name.
I haven't done any political work or political matters, so I issue a disclaimer. But what I have done with him is work consistently with him and learn very much from working with him. I think the highlight of my career recently would be for that about a year or so. He did quite a lot of defamation matters. And he is quite similar to me in the sense that he's a lawyer, but he also headed the SABC as its CEO at one time. So he also has the combination of having expertise in both the law and in the communication space.
Yeah.
So he was the perfect person for me to do the defamation matters with. And I can very confidently say that I am the best counsel when it comes to defamation in the country.
Learning from the best and working with the best.
Learning from the best, yes. And so for me, I think the good thing about that is that you have the benefit of working with somebody who is very well experienced and who guides you through it. It was very interesting because we represented, for example, General Bantu Holomisa, who is the president or chairperson of the United Democratic Front. And we did a series of defamation matters for him, and we won every single one of them. We raised a whole host of defenses, probably every single defense that could be raised, including the defense of parliamentary privilege, which is a very nuanced defense in terms of the law of defamation. I've also enjoyed it very much because of my background both in law and then in the communication space. And it deals with the constitutional issues of the right to freedom of expression, but then also where does it end? And what really constitutes hate speech? How far can the boundaries be pushed so that we allow freedom of expression and respect the right enshrined in the Constitution in terms of Section 16? But also, how does it work on the other end of the spectrum, and where do we draw the line to say what is constitutionally permissible and what is not?
Yeah, and that's something that is often talked about almost daily, especially given the world we live in now with social media. That is utterly fascinating. The work you're doing is quite incredible. And I will take back my raised eyebrows about the illustrious background of your chambers.
I think there's one more thing that I must add just on the last aspect with the defamation, and it applies not just to that particular, those matters. I think it also applies to how do you work. And I can remember when I reflect on them and a lot of the other defamation, I've represented a newspaper in Swaziland, for example, also, in matters where, when we look at it, the freedom of press is literally non-existent. And it is quite controversial. And with those matters, coming back to the how do you work, I remember spending many nights and days in chambers where I would literally go home to simply take a shower and go back. And you work consistently and continuously like that. It taught me the law, yes, but it taught me the importance of working hard, of focusing intently on what you want to do, and of mastering what it is that you set out to achieve, whatever that may be. Whether it is in the law or whether it is in business, whether it is in anything else that you do. It taught me that you need to put in the hours, you need to put in the hard work. A lot of it in the legal profession happens in our chambers. It's not when you go and stand in court for 1 hour or 1 day that you magically know what you need to say. Yeah. It's all the sleepless nights that people don't see. It's all the blood, sweat, and tears. It's all the sacrifices that you make, where you miss people's wedding celebrations, you miss your friends' birthday parties, you miss a lot of things. But I think it's the price that you pay to be successful at the end of the day. And when I said that I look at myself or regard myself as the best counsel in defamation, it's because I know the work that I put in. It's because I know the support that I got. It's because I know that I have the necessary expertise to be able to say that. And so for me, when I look at what I've done, it is something that I'm very proud to be able to say. And it doesn't come from a place of arrogance. It comes from a place of, I decided to be a lawyer, I put in the hard work, and this is what I have to show for it at the end of the day.
Yeah, it doesn't sound arrogant at all. I mean, at all. And it's something, there's a lot of points, if I can unpack it for a moment, what you've just said, that I completely agree with. A lot of our listeners are at this sort of student CA level of starting out their career, and that's understandable because they're listening in and or watching on YouTube to hear your story, to hear about from you and other professionals about what goes into one's career. And there's a number of things. There's a couple of things that you said that I completely agree with, and I've talked about when I'm doing training, certainly with juniors, and I've got a session this afternoon as well. Is the 10,000 hour thing from Malcolm Gladwell is exactly right. You know, The Outliers is a book that is fantastic. If anyone out there hasn't read it, please get a copy. And it is a principle that I agree with completely. But you've also raised a point there about hard work, and you know, and just from a career perspective. I was asked recently on a podcast, a Canadian podcast that I was on, about that topic and about what makes someone a success. And when you get to your mid-40s, you can look back and go, what have you done that people can learn from? And I said, look, I'm sure there's plenty of people that don't want to hear this, but there's no replacement for hard work. There simply isn't. And if you're lucky enough to be someone like yourself or myself who's found a profession that drives their passion and drives them to work that hard, then that's great, because then you can work hard in something that you love doing, which you clearly have. So it's nice that you've raised those points so eloquently, because they really are. That's another thing that comes shining through and I'm sure the listeners will agree as well. Just listening to you there, you've clearly got a lot of passion for what you do, clearly a lot of drive. But just the way you talk about someone who is constantly learning and constantly evolving and growing. And it's really interesting to hear. And I hope the listeners get a lot out of this, because, yeah, you really are someone that I'm sure that they can learn from. For those who are listening that don't yet know the difference between, in terms of a career path, advocacy or being an attorney in a law firm, the one thing I've always admired and always, it has sort of been similar to my own career, is that when you're an advocate, you have to go out and get your own work. You work for yourself. Yes, you get your network and you get referred, and clients will keep coming back to you. But when you're starting out as an advocate, you start from scratch, right? I mean, that's the thing. And I've always admired that, because that's similar to myself in terms of you have to build something from nothing. So to do that effectively almost twice, when you started in 2009 and then again when you moved to Johannesburg, I know that you had connections and you'd worked there, but you are starting again effectively.
I must tell you, that is extremely interesting that you raised that. The way I look at it is, when I moved to Johannesburg, as I said to you, I knew very few people. And I think what helped me, as I said, was moving into the group that I chose. Because of the culture of the group, it very strongly focuses on supporting women. Obviously, you have to be somebody of value and create something of value. And I already had come with a lot of experience, and because I had come there, I was prepared to work hard. Everybody would see me sitting there in my chambers from the time they got in until well after they had left. And I think
they're wondering whether you actually lived there.
At one time, I think it would be safe to say that I did.
Spent more time there. So.
Yes,
yeah.
But going back to when you say, I started something, and then when I moved to Johannesburg, I started all over again. I love it, and it's correct. And how I look at it is as like this. When you do something the first time, you make your mistakes and you learn from them. When you do something the second time, you do it so much better. And I think the beauty of how I look at life is about what can you create, and what can you do, and what can you make from nothing, and you make it your own. And so I think when I reflect now, my practice in Johannesburg is probably millions of times better than my practice was in Pietermaritzburg. Having said that, though, I am very much more mature than when I started. I was 23 years old. When I started in Johannesburg, I was in my very early 30s, I think. So I think it also comes with the maturity of it, but it comes with down to your attitude and what is it that you want. And just to enjoy it. At this point in life, I'm doing so much of things, and I'm just every day saying to myself, what am I going to enjoy doing the most today? What am I going to achieve? What is going to be new? What is going to be exciting? What I'm really enjoying at this moment in time is learning from the people that I meet, learning from, I'm very strongly all about continuous education. After I completed both of my degrees, I studied at University of Pretoria with insolvency. I studied at UCT with diversity, equity, and inclusion. I studied at Stellenbosch Business School with women at work. I studied now at University of Pennsylvania with ESG. I think there's some things that I'm forgetting. Oh, I did business rescue also. But I think continuously educating yourself. And you don't necessarily have to go and study at a university. Education has become so much more accessible now.
No, it's wonderful.
You can literally spend your free time reading something online, doing a short course somewhere or the other, whatever interests you. The other thing which is important for me is that every single person that I meet has something to teach me. It's either how not to be or either how to be, apart from the knowledge content that they are able to share. When we interact with people, they show us what are the possibilities of what could happen, what can you achieve, and they teach you about life really. When you listen to their journeys, when you listen to their stories. As we are chatting now, as you mentioned earlier, I am the editor-in-chief of Affinity magazine.
Yeah.
And what I have enjoyed very much is doing some of the interviews with some of the people that I've met along the way and really listening to their journey. So for example, at this moment in time, in celebration of 100 years of women in law, I have gathered together a few judges who have influenced me on my career. There are a few general counsel that I've interviewed as well, and a few of the chairpersons of organizations or law firms to listen to their journey and to learn from them. And it has been one of the most incredible experiences every time I speak to them, hearing what are their common challenges, hearing how did they overcome them, but most importantly, hearing from them how did they succeed and how did they overcome their challenges. Because as with this podcast, it's important for us to share the stories of the people that have come before us so that we are able to inspire the generation of lawyers now and the generation of lawyers that will come after us.
And that's exactly why I launched the podcast in the first place, is really to find what's driving or has driven those of you who are shaping the law now and going forward in the future. Because I don't say it lightly, but you talk very wonderfully and eloquently about the people that have inspired you and the people who have inspired your chambers and etc. But you are the person, and the people that you interview for Affinity magazine are the people that are going to inspire the next generation, and that's exactly why I launched the podcast, because the younger generation coming through need to hear your story. They need to know that it's possible, and I think it's not to be underestimated. Just listening to you there as well is that you've clearly got a very entrepreneurial spirit, which is nice. I can see it. I mean, obviously I've known many entrepreneurs across the world all my life, and there is a common thread, and it's the enjoyment factor. It's the enjoyment of the challenge, not being afraid to fail is usually a common thread as well. But just really pushing yourself and feeding into and the areas that you're involved in. They tick a different box in your personality, I imagine.
I must tell you something very interesting. So you said you like ESG. So when I describe myself, I say to people, I have my own personal ESG strategy for me. With the E, it is the energy business, which we will speak about in more detail. Yeah. With the S, it is the social aspect, and that comes in with the 3 women's organizations that I volunteer with. But even with the S, it is everything else that I do that I look for opportunities where the things that I do can create what I call intergenerational equity. Whether it is just somebody listening to what I say I have done, or whether it is somebody meeting me, asking me for a little bit of guidance, whether it is somebody working with me that is a woman that walks away saying that I am inspired by her and I can see what are the possibilities for me. And because I am a woman, it is actually my strength and not my weakness. And I can achieve whatever it is I want to do because I naturally have the ability as a woman to create life. So why can I not create absolutely anything else on earth if I can do that?
That is a wonderful line, and we're gonna highlight and bold that on the podcast, because that exactly, why can I not create anything else? Okay, I want to unpack this a little bit. I want to talk a little bit more about the energy group that you're involved in. Please, can you tell the listeners all about that?
So that is very interesting. That has taught me the power of leveraging networks. Okay, so there is a non-profit voluntary organization that I am the head of their Women's Forum. It was established in South Africa. It is now expanded to the UK, to China, to Reunion Island, to Mauritius, to Singapore, I think, and there's a couple of countries which I've forgotten.
What's it called?
It's called TBW.
Okay.
It stands for Tamil Business Warriors. I am South Indian, and I think before we get to that, I must tell you the very interesting part about this. So I'm from the south of India originally. I was born in South Africa. I'm probably a fourth generation Indian. Okay. And so when it comes to self-identity, I am Hindu by religion. I am Tamil speaking, and we have what is called the Tamil culture. Okay. As you can see, I'm dressed in my traditional clothes because my self-identity, I identify as a Tamil Indian South African. Okay. Okay. So in India, we have the caste system. And I am actually from a low caste, or what is called a low caste, which means that you are treated very differently. You have less access to opportunities. You're looked down upon. In many places, you're called the untouchables. I remember my grandfather used to tell us that story about it. And so there is a wonderful group of business people in South Africa and actually throughout the world that have gotten together to say, let us form this business networking platform so that we can network with each other, but not only with each other, with everybody around the world in business. It is just to sort of assist and uplift the Tamil community as far as possible. And just, I think by our nature as people, we always gravitate and can relate to people that are the same as us. But this weekend is actually the annual conference. And so the gala dinner is in Stellenbosch. One of the members owns a wine farm in Stellenbosch.
That's nice.
There's another member who is our chairperson actually, who owns 2 hotels in Cape Town. They've done a lot of development in Mauritius. They're doing a lot of development in Langebaan, etc., etc. They strongly support women economic empowerment. And once again, when we go into our culture, it's very traditionally the role that women should be at home. Your responsibility is to look after your family. As far as possible, you shouldn't work. If you do any work, it should be something which is probably a half-a-day work or a home industry job or something with the other. What I like about this is that they promote women in business. Obviously, as a woman, you have to create something of value. And so from this business network, I then met my business partner from LTM Energy. Now, LTM Energy is focused on renewable energy. It provides waste and water sanitation also. It works with the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, Bidvest, all of the telcos, so MTN, Vodacom, the big companies in South Africa, Tata International. There's been quite a lot of projects that they do. I also, as part of my strategy, sit on the advisory board of Women in Mining Business. So I've met a lot of people in the mining sector. And so I've leveraged both of those networks, and we formed together LTM Mining Energy Solutions, which is a subsidiary of LTM Energy. And the culture, again, of this company is to promote women. So actually, what I'm most excited about is we are now announcing on Saturday the 1 million rand pledge, where we are pledging to procure goods and services to the value of 1 million rand from businesses that are 51% women owned and 51% woman led. Obviously, those businesses have to fall into our supplier pipeline in that they need to provide us with the services that we need. They need to be able to deliver on what it is that we want, but we are granting them the access to that opportunity because that is the challenge that women face. It is not the ability, it is the ability to access opportunities. So I'm very proud about that. We are in discussions with UN Women to come on board with it. And I think for me, it comes down to what is the lasting impact that I can leave. And the culture, again, is women are supported in this business. We are very much heard. I came into this business, which is very much well established. I'm an equity shareholder in the business, which for me is something I'm very proud of. But for me, which demonstrates the ethos of the business, because they could have said no. They could have said, you are a lawyer, what do you know? I think to share the journey of it, I spent a lot of time, I approached them and I spoke to them, and very interestingly, the group CEO sent me a video amongst all of the energy videos to show me what the company does. And it was about a speaker called Dandapani, and Dandapani has a very important message which I would like to share. And he says, in everything you do, you must look at what it is that you do, the decisions that you make on the daily basis of living your life. And does everything you do support what it is that you want to achieve once you have identified your life purpose? So everybody applies it differently. The way I applied it is I looked at myself and I said, I would like to become vegetarian because of health reasons, and I would like to speak about that also later though, because of health reasons. I wouldn't drink very much alcohol, so I stopped doing that. I also fundamentally shifted my mindset in terms of how do I live my daily life. I established a magnanimous network in this time by making the deliberate effort of attending events, reaching out to people, expanding my networks, and most importantly, building authentic relationships with people as my dad taught me to do. And you wouldn't see anything immediately. And then I went back after 1 year and I said to the group CEO, whose name is Kerusha Pillay, this is what I think we should do. I think we should form a separate company called LTM Mining Energy Solutions. We will work together. My responsibility will be to bring in projects which the company can then execute. And that is how we have the business today. It's been a few weeks since we've started this. The progress has been phenomenal, incredibly phenomenal. But then again, it comes down to having confidence in yourself and your ability. And what is it that you bring? And you mentioned earlier, as a lawyer and as an advocate particularly, our speciality is being strategic advisors on litigation strategy, developing the strategy, executing the strategy, leading the team when you are leading, even if you are a junior. You are leading the attorney and the team of attorneys that you are working with. When you are a senior, it is about leadership and leading your team. And so the profession actually started as advocates were the advisors to the king in ancient times. So when I looked at it, I said, I will be the strategic advisor in this business, apart from being the equity shareholder. And this is the value that I see that I bring. When it comes to negotiating with other people to source business, to negotiate the business transactions, to put the business transactions together, that is the value that I can bring, apart from the networks that I can access to access the work. And people have been actually forthcoming with the work. I have not had to go and ask for work or bid for work or anything of the sort. People have been forthcoming and saying, well, we've heard you doing this, so we have this project that you can do. And I think, again, it shows for me that if you choose to do something of value, you can then in turn create something of value for other people. And for me, I'm most excited, and it's the first time that I'm mentioning the 1 million rand pledge.
Yeah.
So
I've got a couple of questions on that.
It also comes in, and I'm going to be inviting other businesses to come on board in the different networks that I'm in, to say, as a person and a young woman that has started business and has recently started business, this is what I have pledged to do. If you are prepared to support me, we can collectively make a magnanimous impact to change the business landscape and the lives of women. And just, sorry, before I finish, the reason I got this idea is I mentioned a person earlier, Bonang Mohale. He is the president of Business Unity South Africa. Business Unity recently launched the CEO's Pledge, where 115 of the companies pledged to build South Africa better and make access to opportunities more equitable. And so I look at myself as now having had the benefit of listening to him, reading his book, and having a few interactions with him, to be able to say, this is what I learned from him, but this is what I am able to actually do from it. Because it's about doing diversity and doing things instead of saying I support it and talking about it. What can you do and what impact can you make from what it is that you do that broadly impacts the lives of many people and the people that would come after?
Yeah, no, it's wonderful, and I'm fascinated. I'm sitting here listening to every word you say, and I think it's, you really do believe in what you're doing, which is so amazing to hear. And
I don't believe in myself. Nobody else.
No,
is going to believe
but
in
you
me.
know as well as I do that as we go through life and business, there's many people that we interact with that are just, I mean, to put it blankly, saying words. And that, and you can see it. You must meet people in business like I do all the time, and you go, nah. But listening to you, there's real passion and drive and meaning behind it, what you're doing, and that's why, I'm just sitting here like listening like a fanboy, as they say, just listening to what you're doing. But I want there's a couple of things I want to get across as well to those that are listening. And I'm sorry, I'm going to get the name wrong. Sorry, LTM Mining Energy Solutions, which is the offshoot that you've set up with the CEO. And there was a couple of things you said in there that jumped out at me. One was that you took your time to look and see and really see what you could do, which is a really valuable lesson to all business leaders, rather than just jumping in and just figuring it out as you go along. But are the projects that you're taking on or that people are approaching you with, and it ties into the 1 million rand pledge, which, by the way, this interview will come out after you've done the launch. What type of energy solutions projects are they? Are they renewable energy projects? Is it to build, solar farms, or what type of projects are they?
So, Altium Mining Energy Solution focuses on independent power producing plants.
Okay.
In the renewable energy sector. So it is probably the projects that we are looking at now are solar projects predominantly. But I think because the group works together and because Altium Mining Energy would work with the other subsidiaries in the group, it is not limited to that. Yeah. It would extend to the water projects that are being done.
Oh, you mentioned, yes.
For example, in Coca-Cola has launched with Altium now in 4 locations throughout South Africa a groundwater harvesting project, which we partnered with them for. So again, I say, when it comes to creation, you can create anything that you want. We shouldn't limit it because we always look at, limiting ourselves in a box.
Yeah.
I think the possibilities are infinite. Just find what it is that you want to do, find what it is that you can do, and find the right partner that has the right culture that is going to support you on your journey. Again, I think I've always been like this, where I tend to gravitate towards people that sort of take me under their wing, that I can learn from, but that have a similar mindset and where I feel that my mindset and my thinking can be expanded on. And then I sit with them and do the work, because they would tell you to do certain things. And now I'm experiencing the same thing when I speak to people and I say to them, you're in business and these are the challenges, this is what I suggest you do. But if you don't do it, then I can't help you. Similarly, with having access to so many of the CEOs of listed companies now, even leaders in business, leaders in the legal profession, I always take the time to sit down for 5 or 10 minutes with them, listen to what they say, and then go and say, how do I implement it? And how do I learn from it? And that's when you see the result.
That's the difference with you, and that I'm seeing, aside from other business leaders that I've met over the years, is that you action it. Like, you're not just listening and learning from people. you're doing it, and then you're putting it into practice, and it's So the lesson for anybody listening to you now is that actioning of it, of whatever advice it is that they've picked up from you, and it's clearly, you've just sort of alluded to it there. It's what you're looking for when you're passing on advice, and people, because you are already finding yourself in the shoes of the people that you have learned from over the years. As we get older, and people are going to be wanting your time, and I think it's a case of it's almost, you're giving me the sense of someone who's happy to talk and happy to have people listen and learn from you. But you're going to want to see that they're going to action it as well. And I think that's the big lesson and takeaway that people can take from this. It's utterly fascinating listening to you. I promise you. I'm trying to sort of contain all of the questions that are popping up in my head, and obviously also conscious of allowing you to go home at some point.
Go ahead.
The LTM, the pledge is very interesting. A lot of the sessions that I've done here in South Africa with business leaders like yourself have been female leaders, and I find their journeys fascinating. And it's nice to see people giving back as well, and actually putting the money where their mouth is. I don't want to, obviously this, like I said, this interview is going to come out after you've made the pledge, but can you tell us a little bit more about that? That's a 1 million rand pledge. And so people will almost like, I don't want to dumb it down, but almost like a business angels almost. People come to you with a proposal and you'll look at it. Or how will it work?
It would work in the following way. So if I'm doing a project, and let us say it is an independent power producer project to erect a solar power plant somewhere in South Africa, I would then say I need the supply of solar panels, for example. Then I would say, as a female-owned business, can they supply solar panels? Are they properly compliant in terms of whatever compliance they need to have? Is the company able to deliver on this? What is the track record? The same as you would be evaluated as a service provider to provide services anywhere else. It's just that we are cognizant, and I particularly am cognizant, that there are many women-owned businesses that would be able to do exactly what we've just spoken about now. The problem is that they don't have access to market. It's not that they don't have the capability. It is simply the access to market.
They don't know where to start.
They don't know where to start. I think it's more for the women that have started businesses, though, to clarify that. And
because there has to be some level of track record, obviously. Yes.
That is correct, yes. Because the thing is, with the pledge, it would be wonderful to help startups, but it's not going to be sustainable for me as somebody who started business to be able to help other people that have started business, because it is something I'm doing myself. But I also have always said that whatever it is that you are doing as a person, always look at what can you do to help other people. And for me, this is how I have identified that I am able, as a startup, which I think is quite commendable, to be able to now in turn say that I'm going to be buying these things from other people. So why would I not want to buy it from a woman who is perfectly competent to render the same services at the same price, if not better, and to give me services, probably because being a woman, to have that feminine touch and just give me that added value service, which I think is what women often bring, because of our natural ability to care for other people, and go the extra mile, because we often have to prove ourselves very much harder than men do.
That's something I've seen a lot in the women that I've interviewed here. Certainly, is that they've got to the point that you've got to now, but there's a similar fight, if I may call it that, to get to. I think this is wonderful. I think the fact that you're already giving back after only having really launched that subsidiary fairly recently. You said not a matter of months, is it, or weeks or weeks. So and the fact that the projects are already coming on, but it's nice because, like you say, there's people out there that are able to supply. There's women out there that own their business, or women-led businesses that are able to provide these services, but there's the access to market is quite often very difficult. No, I've spoken to a number of female entrepreneurs fairly recently, and one I had on the show as well, and in a different space, away from power, but more in farming. And you listen to the product or the service that they provide, and you think, this is amazing. How is the world not using this? But it's access to market, and the fact that you're facilitating that is fantastic. And I don't want to skip on so much, but I'm desperate to talk about the linking it in terms of the assistance you're giving. But the three organisations that you mentioned earlier that you are involved in, could you please tell us a little bit more about those, each one, if you may?
Okay, let me start with the women in mining business, because that links with the access to procurement opportunities. So Women in Mining Business is a non-profit company that was formed by a few female entrepreneurs, one of whom I had represented as a director of South African Women in Mining Investment Holdings. And so they invited me to become involved with them and to be on the advisory board. And it is something which has been one of the best things that I have ever done. The purpose of Women in Mining Business is to assist women who own businesses in the mining sector, again, to access procurement opportunities in the mining space. And so we have, it's a challenge, firstly, because we have no funding. It is something which we are very passionate about and which we work very hard at. We have a team of the most incredible female entrepreneurs who have achieved immense success in their respective rights and who have come together to say, what do we do? Not that I'm one of those though, but to say, what do we do to assist women-owned businesses to access the procurement opportunities? So the way that we do it is we have formed partnerships with a few companies. We formed partnerships with a few organizations, and that comes to the power of collaboration. We have formed partnerships with a few companies. And so, for example, one of them is Exaro Resources Limited.
Yep, I know
and
Exaro.
We have said to them, you are procuring goods and services from business owners. In terms of the Mining Services Charter, it is legislated that there needs to be more procurement from women-owned businesses. There's a specific percentage that is earmarked. Fortunately, many of them have exceeded those targets, but there is a culture of wanting to access and grant access to more women-owned businesses. So we formed a partnership with them. They will be sending through to us their business opportunities, which we will pass on to our members.
Again, access to market.
It's the access to market. And again, they have to meet the criteria. I cannot go and say, I want a contract to go and do steel fabrication and construct an underground shaft in one of Anglo-Americans' mines, because I don't have a business that does that. I don't have the...
No, it's what you're describing is proper procurement.
It's proper procurement.
It's proper procurement, which, I will say it,
yes.
Some parts of South Africa have had issues with procurement in the past, in certain industries.
Because it is the private sector, as a lawyer, it's something which I'm very comfortable to be involved in, because I think it's very apparent.
It's transparent.
It's very transparent,
Yep.
and in our country, there is a lot of corruption, unfortunately, in the public sector. But in the private sector, the conversation is very different, and that's where I see a lot of economic opportunity for women. And
Absolutely.
So we are making slow progress, but very good progress on that front. And I think it, again, is something which is going to create a legacy and a lasting impact on the lives of the business women that we are assisting and hopefully will assist.
Well, you're groundbreaking. You're breaking that ground for the next generation coming through.
Let me tell you, again, I come back to the concept of intergenerational equity, because just to explain it very briefly for anybody that may not be familiar with it, is intergenerational equity talks about creating a more equal society in terms of access to opportunities economically, in terms of improving the socio-economic circumstances of people, in terms of, if we look at the rights of access to water, sanitation, housing, food, it is a challenge in South Africa for many people. Now, when we look at women and women business owners, when a woman is empowered economically, she doesn't only help herself, she helps her family.
Yeah.
She educates her kids, she educates the neighbor's kids, she helps the struggling neighbor's daughter next door that is trying to sell chocolates after school. She would then also be a matriarch figure that would encourage the young boys to make sure that they get to school and to make sure that they study and to make sure that they go and find a job. And it then changes the generations that come after them. So I think with this women in mining business also, it is also for me something which is going to leave a lasting legacy. Very interestingly, we have had a very good reception from a lot of the companies. For example, I'm proud to say that I will be meeting next week again, the CEO of Anglo American's bulk commodities, Themba Mkhwanazi, who is very excited about hearing about women in mining business. And when I say hearing, for me, it is good enough for somebody just to listen. Because then they can decide, do I want to collaborate with them or not? And inevitably, there will be people that will say no, and there are people that have said no, but there are so many people that have said yes. And
well, if I may, the organisation has teeth, as
yes.
they say. You know, I don't know all of the board members, but obviously, just listening to you here, this is I know it sounds like I'm not explaining it properly, but it's a real thing. It's real. It's really making a difference. It's got teeth. It's got substance, and yeah, even if nothing comes of the meeting with Anglo American again next week, immediately something will come.
It will come.
And you're making brand. Well, it's a brand awareness as much as anything at the moment.
Absolutely.
They walk away from that meeting going, okay, that's a genuine initiative, organisation, and yes, let's work with them.
You see, I think it comes back to the power of networking.
Very powerful. Proper networking.
Even if somebody doesn't give you any opportunity immediately, they could very well introduce you to somebody else who will. They could say your name in a room when you are not there and share an opportunity with you to further your education, or to just get to a conference even, which you would not have known about otherwise.
This is an important topic. Actually, I was talking to some of my staff about it yesterday. And it kind of it's sort of in the same area as networking. Is whenever you get the opportunity to engage with someone, just make sure. This is the lessons I was trying to pass on. Just make sure it's worthwhile. Make sure it's got teeth, it's got substance, and it's worthwhile. So whether it's a research piece that we might send out, or it's a link to this podcast, which we'll send through at some point to people, think about it for a moment. And it's the same. It's that powerful networking tool. It's like, think about it. Don't just go up to people and talk to everybody, and just have a purpose, have a reason for it, and think, what am I giving them that that will engage them? And it sounds like you've got that as a natural.
Thank you. I think it comes from the approach of what can I offer and how do we collaborate? And I normally say sometimes when I speak to people, these are all the things that I do. You can think about it and you can come back to me if you would like to collaborate. And I think people need to know, what are you about? Purpose in life. What are the things that matter to you? What kind of a person you are? And what are the goals that you want to achieve really? What is your outlook and what is your long-term plan?
And you have substance. You're doing it. It's so great. I mean, so before I forget, and the other two organisations, because I almost forgot that I was getting off on women.
I think before we leave this topic, since I have the platform, would like to say a little bit more about women in mining.
Yeah, please.
To invite anybody that is listening that might want to collaborate, literally with anything that I'm doing, honestly. So Women in Mining Business, as I said, is formed by a few women business owners. We have engaged with a lot of stakeholders to say, let us work together to assist women to access these procurement opportunities, to assist women to find out what are the conferences happening, what events can you go to, can we facilitate a meeting with somebody for you, what events are we having that you can come to hear the stories of our women, to meet people and expand your network.
And can anyone in that sphere join? If they're female
Yes,
led business.
A female business owner in whatever sector you are that renders goods and services in the mining industry. If you provide stationery, you can provide that to a mine. Yesterday, for example, I met the managing director of a consulting company that does business coaching and operational efficiency development. And so it's a whole spectrum. It's not only if you own a mine. It is if you have, like I'm a lawyer, for example, so this is of interest to a lot of the lawyers that would be listening. I am a lawyer, and all mining companies need lawyers. So if you are in the legal sector and you would like to join, you are most welcome to contact me. I think, Rob, you would share my details.
Oh,
at the
absolutely,
end of it.
yes.
You're most likely happy to contact me. I might not be able to say you can go and meet some important person and get a job or something, or be able to access work immediately or something. But the value that I see is it will change the way that you think. It would expose you to a lot of people that you wouldn't ordinarily be able to be exposed to. And yes, you can do business at some point in time. But again, that is up to you and the value that you bring and how you navigate the business challenges, I think, with any business network.
Yeah, it's joining the community. And it's nice that you set out the you know, they might not get a piece of business straight away. That's not what it's about. It's about joining that community. And I guess there's a lot of collaboration as well. There's, you know,
it's absolutely wonderful. For example, there's another organization, WMSA, who is our sister organization and who we've partnered with. And so that is for women that are employed in the corporate sector, in anything really.
And what's it called again, sorry?
WMSA, so Women in Mining South Africa.
Okay.
So our distinguishing factor is we are for women in business and they are for women employed. But we cross-collaborate and we actually have, I'm a member of WMSA and I think a lot of them are our members also.
Oh, because there's business owned and then employed, yes. They're natural collaboration, I suppose.
And then again, for example, to give you an example, earlier this year, I attended the Mining Indaba as a representative of Women in Mining Business. WMSA gave us a free ticket to attend. I then met the Association of African Women in Mining South Africa, AWIMA, about 2 or 3 weeks before that. They approached WIMBAs and they said to us that we are holding a conference during the week of the Mining Indaba in Cape Town, and so we are looking for speakers. We want to partner with you. They are sponsored by the European Union and the African Union, and they were doing a project on the critical mineral supply. So I was more than happy. I spoke. It was a panel on ESG, or a workshop on ESG at the Radisson Blu. I then contacted 2 other people who are attorneys, incidentally. Meluleki Nzamande from Weber Wensel, who was the former Trade Administration Commissioner of South Africa, and Warren Beach, who is a very good friend of our chairperson, and invited them to come and speak. And we collaborated with AWIMA to have this fantastic event during the week of the Mining Indaba. So again, the power of collaboration. When I invite people to collaborate with us, I never in my life thought that I would be speaking at a conference at the Mining Indaba with the European Union and the African Union, but it happened.
You've made it happen.
It happened.
Yeah, but again, it's the substance. I'm listening to you, and it's genuine collaboration. It's genuine networking, and you've got that drive and that passion that's pushing you there, which a lot of people can feed off as well, but they can also learn from. It sounds like you're doing amazing work on that side of things. And you do, obviously that's just one of the organisations that you're, or you know, of the 3 that you mentioned. Is it all women in mining linked, or is it?
I think the one is, so our chairperson of Women in Mining Business, Makosazana Sabisi, is also the G100 country chair for ESG in South Africa. So the focus there is on beneficiation. So that is obviously applicable to the mining sector. And G100 is founded by a woman in India, and it is a global network of women throughout the country, throughout the world, It's Mission 1 Million, of getting 1 million women on board. You choose a cause that you are passionate about, and you have support from them in the sense of you use their branding, etc., etc. They are a massive network. They also have, I think, 4 other networks. So it's the Women Economic Forum. It is an online platform called She Economy. I think it's 2 others. I can't recall the name. Again, it comes down to collaboration. So I am on the chair's advisory board again with that. The last one is the Tamil Business Warriors organization that I mentioned.
Yes.
People really support women, and there is so much of business that are being done between the business owners within that network. I'm very proud to say that it's something that is giving me the opportunity to learn how to lead, because the business owners, when I look at them, are extremely established, wealthy business owners, and predominantly, I think 95% male. But again, it shows, and again, coming back to our culture of the traditional stereotypical Indian woman. It, for me, is something which is giving me the platform to say that we need to change. This is a testimony of the men that are involved in this sector, that they are supporting the economic empowerment of women throughout the world. And so if they can do it as successful businessmen, then we can collectively change the narrative in terms of the gender space, and we can really uplift women wherever they are in the world. And so I'm really enjoying that because, again, as I said to you, it's giving me the opportunity to learn how to lead, and it's giving me, again, the support. My advice to a lot of people would be, find the people, identify the people that are willing to support you. Don't focus on the ones that tell you that you can't do it, because there are millions of those. Yeah. Focus on the ones that are willing to support you, that are willing to give you their time, that see the value in you, and that don't look at you for where you are now, but look at you for where they can see you going in 5 years or 10 years or 15 years, because they see that you have that inherent ability to do whatever it is that you do, and the value that you bring, and that they know, I can work with this person, I can shape this person, because there are so many people that are really willing to help other people. I think my approach is, how do you identify what it is that you want to do, and then try and identify who it is that can help you to do it. And yes, you will encounter a lot of challenges. If you have to sit with the women in mining business, we laugh about it very much, because it's very different. We call ourselves professional beggars sometimes because there are a lot of people that you have to justify your existence to and your ability, and it's almost as, justify why you are a woman. Then there is a conversation which you have with other people, and those are the people that we've collaborated with so easily, who see the value in what we do. So my advice to anybody is, find those people, and it's going to take a lot of hard work and time and effort and frustration. It's going to develop your resilience, I can tell you that. But find those people and see what you can achieve with them, and you will be beyond amazed by it.
I think you've touched on a couple of things there that hit home with me and my experiences as well. And one is where you talked about where you've just mentioned the Tamil women in business and it being highly male dominated at that point, but that they are working hard to bring the next generation of female leaders through. And it's something that when I was involved with the Women's Foundation in Hong Kong and in Singapore for many years, it was something that we talked about a lot during the board meetings, which was, having men in the conversation, but men like myself and those that you work with that genuinely believe in the empowerment of women and don't see gender, just want to push on professionals and the importance of that, and then tying that into what you've just ended with there, which is spending the message to people listening, spending time with or finding those people that genuinely want to help, because there's lots of people in business that don't, male, female, wherever they may be in the world. We've all come across them. There's those that will lift you up and will help you and can see where you are heading. as a younger person, or even someone in their midlife of their career, we all face challenges, but there are others who will stand on your head to get ahead of you. So yeah, it's identifying which ones are, and it's so wonderful to hear that you're involved in so many groups where there's like-minded people that are supporting. And again, I've used the word 6 times already, but the substance behind it, it's fantastic. We are going to make sure that all of the links to all of these organizations, I'm going to have to watch the video back to hear, to take out everything. But no, I'm going to do what I can to help promote the organizations that you're involved in, because you're doing genuine, incredible work. And again, it goes to again, you, and I won't name any names, but over the history of our lives and our business lives, you've probably seen as many of these foundations and things like that fall by the wayside that I have as well. And it's always the ones that haven't got that substance, that don't really, you're not sure, they don't last. But yours, the ones you're involved in, are building and growing and genuinely doing good. And also, they're simpler, if I may say, they're quite simple. It's certainly the way you describe it, certainly the procurement for women in mining, and you're giving them a platform to market, and again, we'll put the links below, and anybody that hears this, and we'll make sure that it's spread far and wide. They'll I'm sure within the website, and once they get involved in the organisation, there's a very clear step-by-step guide to reaching what they can. I'm wondering, and I'm sure people are listening wondering, when you ever switch off, if you ever have any time just to watch a bit of Netflix or something, or are you honestly just working all the time?
I actually don't work all the time.
Ah. So what do you do? What are you doing in your spare time? What are you doing when you're not involved in all of these, and also your day job?
I think, as I said, it's all about having fun. So a lot of what I do is a lot of fun for me, and I look at it as an opportunity to learn. And as I said to you, my dad taught me the most important thing is to build authentic relationships. So for me, it is create something of value, and that value, the product that you create of value, should be yourself. And whatever it is that you choose to do, create something like that. So that's when I look at, when you ask me what do I do, I've started going around with some of the guys that play golf to learn what it's like. And it's so much of fun, and it's fascinating. Actually, RTM sponsored golf day today at Molnerton Golf Club.
Oh yeah, I've played it. It's very good.
After this. But for me, it is a mixture of social and I guess business, but also to meet people, to learn from them.
Try something new.
Try something new, to expand your network. So it's about having fun, and I make sure, the one thing I wanted to speak about actually, and it's the first time again now that I'm actually publicly speaking about this. And I make sure I get a lot of sleep. And the reason for that is I was diagnosed with an autoimmune disease called multiple sclerosis.
Oh, you were?
About 9 years ago, something like that. And it is a debilitating disease. It can get you can progressively degenerate to the extent that I could become a quadriplegic. It has different levels of severity for different people, and it is about, I think, substantially how you manage it. And so I make sure that I get plenty of rest. I make sure that I have as healthy a lifestyle as possible in terms of what I eat. And I mentioned that I would come back to it earlier.
The vegetarianism, yeah.
Becoming a vegetarian, be careful of what you put into your body, because I need to be as healthy as possible. It's up to me. I think it also is important because as I look at it, it is a test of my mental strength. Because I was at the juncture where I could have given up. I was told that I need to go on medication, where I would effectively not be able to work. I was told to probably the best thing I could do, not directly, is stay at home and hope my husband is going to support me, which he obviously would have, and my family. But I decided at that point that that is not going to be my life, that I would like to live a very exciting and very fulfilling and meaningful life. And so I think I make sure that there is a balance, obviously, because I have to look after my health. I've often tested the limits, though, when
Sounds like it. Yeah.
I've tested the limits on many occasions, particularly when it comes to practice, because I would, at one point, as you said, stay in my chambers, which I did. But I think now at this time, I'm actually enjoying doing more things because I'm learning how to manage my time better. I find the more that you do, the more you can do. And it's also taught me the importance of being able to be a leader, as in leading teams of people. And I once asked the CEO of Anglo-American Themba Mkhonasi, who I mentioned earlier, how does he do everything that he does? And he said to me, you have to learn how to lead your teams, make good teams, and lead those teams well. Even Arjun, the brain, who I spoke to yesterday, told me the same thing. It's about leadership at the end of the day. And so, as I said, with a lot of things I'm doing, it's teaching me about how to be a leader, how to delegate things. There's obviously the main things that I have to do, but I think it's teaching me how do you have a good work-life balance, which as lawyers is probably the number one struggle that most of us have. And so, I think for me, that has been something which has really been life-changing, because it was a decision of, do you give up or do you carry on? And if you carry on, what do you do and how do you do it? And I think for me, it is something which actually, now that I'm sitting here, I'm very proud to say that I have achieved quite a lot in the face of that.
Yes, you have. And for my position and for the listeners, can I say thank you for sharing that, because it's incredibly personal, but it is incredibly important. And if you weren't an inspiration enough already, even more so with your MS diagnosis, which I have a friend who I won't mention, obviously, but here in Cape Town, who also was, very professional, a woman, fit, well, healthy, and was also diagnosed with MS a few years ago. Mm-hmm. And her journey has been, very tough. And I've seen, myself and her friends have seen it firsthand. And it's incredibly admirable what the way that you've faced your challenge. And I think one of the lessons that people can take, and I would as well, and I'll take away, and potentially even Kyle, our producer as well, will take away, just listening to your story there, is that even with a diagnosis which would have set you and your family, into a state of, at least initially, not knowing, we need to research, can we control this, what do we have to do, the unknowing, scared, it's your personal journey. It's to show people listening that it's you just faced it head on. It's certainly not. It's just the beginning, of your journey, and it's so incredible to see you achieving so much. And now you're learning about balance. You say, looking at what you're putting into your body, what you're eating, and that might be partly to do with. We are getting older as well, but also your general health. And I think as we get older, we are more conscious of it. I certainly gave up alcohol a few years ago and improved my diet, and I still need to get out running more and shift a few more pounds. But that'll come. That'll come. But you start to look at yourself, don't you? And you start to know yourself a little bit more, and you're obviously protecting your energy levels as well. And it's incredible to see, but it's a powerful message for people, because the one thing that I think it's nice when people like yourself and myself and professionals like us who are open and willing to share, when we do share, I don't think we'll ever know how powerful these messages are. The fact that you've told us your personal story today, someone will listen. Someone will hear that.
I really hope,
and
it's
they
the
will
first
hear
time,
it.
as I said, that I've spoken about.
It's an honor that you've done that, and I really appreciate it. Because someone will hear this.
Yes, I hope somebody hears it, and if anybody is listening and they have MS, and they would like to contact me, I really would like to speak to them, because I think, for me, honestly, I think I have not been able to speak about it publicly until now, probably. I needed to take the time, I guess, to deal with it. I think I've dealt with it very well. I must say that I am incredibly blessed to have the most supportive family, an extended family. And when I say extended, I mean very extended family. And everybody has been so caring and so supportive of me. I honestly would not be able to have gotten through this and to be as healthy as I am today without their support. And it comes down to emotional support, because as with any illness, I think the emotional support is extremely important. As I said, it's a test of your mental strength. It also is a test of your physical ability. So you need to know yourself and know your body. I must mention personally my doctors.
Yes.
Dr. Sakur, who is my neurologist in Pietermaritzburg, who I still travel to see. Dr. Mohanla, who is also an advocate, and my general practitioner doctor, who I still also go to see. And there's another doctor who is Dr. Shankar Chetty. I think a lot of people know him because he is a very reputed autoimmune COVID specialist who treated me when I had COVID and who I've known for a long time, all of them actually. So my advice to anybody that has any medical condition is find yourself a good team of doctors that you develop a good relationship with, that you can call at any time that you need, that you have your other support, so as your physiotherapist or whatever it is your condition is, the ancillary support that you would need. Get that team of people around you and build your relationship with them because you need them. Be open with your family and accept their support because they are there to support you. And I think you go through a stage where you feel very guilty initially, that everybody's now worried about you and it's because, this is happening to you, but you can't control it. It's their genuine concern for you, so accept it. Be brave and be confident that you will get through it. And remember, as I said, I can't stress this enough, it is a test of your mental strength. You will have times where you don't feel so good. You will have times where you need to go to the doctor, where something has happened. It's how you deal with it and how you face it. Don't make a big deal about it. Just find out what do you need to do and go and do it. And try and get bed rest. Doctors say you need bed rest. You need bed rest.
They're saying it for a reason. I thank you so much for sharing that with us because this is incredibly important. I say this often, and I said it. We were at a party the other day, my wife and I, and it was the typical party where it was all the great and the good. Everyone's dressed very smartly and everybody's being very pleasant and smiling at each other and everything's fantastic and everything's very nice and everything's very well. And I leant back and said to my wife, wouldn't it be nice if you just had a speech bubble above everybody's head that could tell you what's really going on in their lives?
Yes.
Because obviously I've been in the people business for 21 years now, and I've met everybody from all walks of life, and we all have challenges, and it's only when people like you who are so prominent and such wonderful leaders that in so many ways one can be inspired by you, and I've just sat here listening to you intently and feeling very inspired. And then to end on that as well, to share your personal journey, it's going to speak volumes with people who are also going through different challenges. And what I also, and maybe you'll agree with this, I don't know, but you don't have to, but one of the things I often say is that people are so different that what one person can handle, others can't. So it's not to be dismissed if someone out there is going through something not as I don't want to say the word severe, but not as serious potentially as MS. If they're not able to cope, and also that's okay if you can't cope. Seek help. Absolutely. Talk, like you mentioned there, about get the family close, and don't feel guilty about the fact that you're not a burden. They genuinely care. They want to make things better, and I think just listening to you there is going to send so many great messages to so many professionals who are going to be facing similar issues.
I think two things on that note. I think recently Janine Kim Myberg, who is the chairperson of the Legal Practice Council,
I know the name.
I would like to commend her because she introduced, and I'm sure she was instrumental, but it was her team, in introducing a free counseling service to all legal practitioners in South Africa. And an email was sent to everybody so everybody would know about it. Go and see if you need it, and if you need it, go and use it.
Amazing.
I think the other thing is, with everything that we do, it comes down to resilience. We all encounter all sorts of challenges under the sun. And I think we have to have the sense to stop and to do two things. The one is to say, what responsibility do I take in this? And the reason I say that is everything that happens is as a result of a culmination of the choices that we make. So reflect on your choices and see what are the changes that you need to make, and make those changes, okay? And the second thing is that, and then carry on and see what, the second thing is that you have to decide what it is that you need to, change. The second thing is, I think, figure out what do you do to resolve the situation and to get through it, whatever the situation is. Find out who are the people that you need to help you on it, because in all probability, it's not something that you can do by yourself. It could be the most arbitrary thing. It could be now you've become a new mother, and how do you adjust to it? Look at who is your support system. People want to help you. Take them up on the offer of help. If you want to start a practice, find out who are the people that have done it before you, that are willing to share their journey and to say to you, I can help you with this, I can help you with mentorship, I can help you with linking you with somebody that's going to give you business. If you want to move to a new area, for example, go and find out from people that are there, what do they say about it? I think my message is simply find out what it is you need to do to overcome your challenge. I think also change your mindset, because with most things that you do, if you want to change what is happening in your life, you have to change your mindset. When you change your mindset, you will start making different decisions. You will start doing things differently. It comes down to Dandapani's message of you can't want to do the same thing over and over and expect a different result. Yeah. And it's up to you at the end of the day. You are the one that is responsible for what. You can't control what happens to you, but you control how you react to it and how you create your life. It's about lifestyle design in Hinduism, we call it. And it comes down to the choices that you make to create the lifestyle that you want to see at the end of the day. So I think that is probably where I would like to end it.
On those beautiful words, we have to end. I think that I don't want to add anything more to that because it's wonderful. I want to thank you from the bottom of my heart for your sharing your journey. Just so many messages within this interview that tell us who you are, where you came from, the journey you've been on, how you've tackled the issues, and then to find, and then your personal journey, sheds light even more so on what a wonderful person you are. So thank you so much. I really mean it. I know the listeners are going to get huge amounts of this. I will do everything I possibly can to support you in any way going forward, if you need it, although it sounds like you don't need it. You're blazing a trail on your own. But thank you so much for doing that, and thank you so much for sharing your journey with us.
Thank you very much for the opportunity, for this platform. Thank you for the time to listen to me. Thank you for being so supportive. Thank you for offering your help. Thank you for agreeing to this collaboration. I do hope that whoever is listening to this can learn something. I hope that their life becomes richer for it. And again, my message is recognize yourself, the value that you bring to the world. Recognize the strength that you have as a person. Recognize your ability to get through any challenge that life throws at you, and to thrive and not just survive. And if anybody would like to contact me, Rob will post the details. You are welcome to reach out to me, and I look forward to engaging with everybody. I wish everybody all of the very best. Remember that you have the infinite ability and possibility within yourself to create and achieve absolutely anything that you want to. Thank you.